Hello, everyone, and welcome to Watch Your Game, Episode 50. Today we're joined by Atomix8 and Epoch. But first, let's hear more about the space. The aim of the space is to introduce new games and get to know them a bit better through questions from me, as well as questions from the audience. It's a relatively free stage, so if you do have any questions, stick your hand up and we'll get you on stage and you can ask your questions. If you don't want to come up, in the bottom right-hand corner, you will find a speech bubble, and you can pop your questions or comments there, and I will read them as they go along. I'm the host for the hour. I create all my content around introducing new games, whether it's on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and recently on Spotify, Amazon Music, and iTunes. So, and there's TikTok, but I always forget about it. So anywhere you can find content, you'll be able to find Gaspode WD trying to bring you new games. But before we hear from our projects this week, we're going to have a quick look over the projects that we've had up previously, and I'll be pinning a list to the top of all the projects we have previously had up on the space. The list is currently 96 members long. There have been more people on the space, but a couple of them haven't survived the bear, so the list has shrunk slightly. But if you want to keep up to date with all the projects that we've spoken to, following that list is a great way to do it. A kind of joint update is from Rumble Arcade, who we heard about from, I think it might have even just been last week. I held my first ever tournament as part of my Watch Your Game Discord in Rumble Arcade. They were kind enough to give everyone who entered access to a very early alpha build. I obviously won, but then, I didn't want to give myself a prize. So we had 3 winners. During the 3 days of the tournament, we managed to get, I think, 12 people playing. And the team got some good feedback, and they've just released a new build based on some of the feedback that they've received. So definitely worth keeping an eye on Rumble Arcade. Even after the tournament has ended, I am spending a ridiculous amount of time playing it because I am very competitive and I want to keep my number 1 spot. Additionally, in updates, we have our main guy down in the audience, Graslow. Oldor has recently launched a new part of their update, and they have just put out their big announcement, which I am looking forward to pin, and it's their tournaments. So I've pinned that to the top. I played the first slice, must be a couple of months ago now, in the arena. I thought I was very good, and then I saw other people playing, and they trounced my score, and it turned out I wasn't maybe as good as I thought I was. But if you like fighting in an arena, and you're interested in more about Oldor, I've pinned that to the top. And they have been a guest, and Graslow has always been a big supporter of everyone. So Graslow is a top egg. And then final update is I got a chance to play Last Resort, who we talked to last week, very early in development, very early kind of in their Twitter journey. I think they were about 100 Twitter followers when we talked to them. And I went and had a go over there, and they are currently looking to get more people into their open beta to test it out and see kind of how the game is playing. So if that's something you're interested in, go across to Last Resort, join the Discord, and see when they get you involved. It's kind of a co-op kill all the zombies kind of thing at the moment. There is going to be further aspects built out, but right now I was mainly shooting stuff. And I didn't die, and we did manage to... I found a hole in the base, which is meant to be safe, and we let the zombies in, but they didn't actually do any damage, unfortunately. So that was quite fun to play. But that is it from all of the projects we've had previously. As mentioned, I've pinned to the top the Twitter list for you to keep an eye on, so you can join them there. But now we will head over to our first project for the night, and we will go to Epoch first. So, Epoch, who are you, and what's your game?
Hey, yeah, really lovely to be here. Thank you for inviting us. I know Anna connected us originally, and ever since then it's been really exciting listening to your different spaces. Been perusing the back catalogue as well, and already discovered some great projects. So Yeah, very happy to be here. Yeah, we're Epoch. We're an American football based experience, I would say. So we're creating a suite of games around the American football theme that will all kind of slowly but surely lead towards a truly digitally native American football league, which will be massive multiplayer. So if you've played things like Football Manager or some of those other kind of simulators in the past, sometimes even on FIFA and Madden, you can kind of play these games in a kind of management mode. It'll be like that, but with instead of just yourself, you'll be playing with hundreds, thousands, who knows, maybe even tens of thousands of people one day, managing teams, managing players, and having a great time doing so. Yeah, that's a tiny, tiny, brief introduction. There's a huge amount more I could say, but I'll keep it flowing.
No, I will. I've wrote down a couple of questions already just of that. The initial one to start with, just based on your accent. Why American football?
Yeah, it was heart-wrenching, I have to say. As an English guy, football has always been something you play with your feet and not your hands. Um, and I apologize to any Americans in the audience here. I know it's hard to hear sometimes, but it is true. But no, I am also a big American football fan, have been for a long time. And one of my co-founders, who I can actually see in the audience here, is a massive American football fan as well. He's from New York State. He's a big Patriots fan, sadly, again. I say that as a Buffalo Bills fan, so I can't really talk. But we've also found American football to be a very compelling sport in terms of translating it to a gaming environment. So one of the games that we're going to be releasing initially is a CCGG, kind of very similar to Hearthstone, with sort of American football mechanics and perhaps a little bit of like poker style bluffing and kind of messing with your opponent's brain in there mixed into. And we found at least the sort of stopping and starting, more strategic kind of chess oriented style of play that sport has really, really lends itself to these kinds of games. We're really exploring that to its fullest extent, and kind of using that as a platform to create something very strategic, very I'd say logic based, but also with an element of fun and very, very intense when it comes to those kind of rivalries and that kind of poker style of like bluffing your opponents and really trying to mess with their brains as well. Otherwise, we've also found American football to be a very popular sport when it comes to the fantasy side of things. So obviously we're digitally native. We're building this American Football League based on completely original IP. So all of the athletes and all of the characters are completely unique, completely new. We're really encouraging our community to help develop these characters as well. We're very creative in that respect. We want people to kind of guide these stories. And because North American audiences have already been so receptive to fantasy football in the past, anyways, which is a huge market. The ticket sizes are quite considerable. The spend per customer is quite considerable. It seems like a market that was kind of already halfway there when it came to onboarding into something that was perhaps a bit more digitally native and a bit more fantasy oriented.
I get that, and I think I don't know anything about American football. However, I have recently been playing NFL Rivals, and the kind of stop-start, kind of more strategic way of playing that you mentioned, that and the way that can tie in definitely seems to lend itself better than, say, football with your feet kind of would do, because it hasn't got the same stop-start to it. In terms of the first kind of mini game, essentially, that you mentioned, the card game version, will these survive when you reach the goal of the MMO, or kind of is the main goal the MMO and these are just to keep people interested as you're going along?
No, we definitely have no intention of making anything that doesn't last for the entirety of the Epoch League. So I'm the creative director at Epoch, which means I get to kind of dabble with story and I get to do artwork, and it's all very lovely. And in that respect, I'm very, very story driven. I came from an entertainment background, originally working in children's TV. And so I've been really pushing to make sure that our products make sense within the wider story that we're telling of a digitally native league. So in that respect, this card game, this kind of Hearthstone style card game, it represents the amateur league in the in the overall Epoch ecosystem. So if you do know American football a little bit, what you tend to get is a college football system where young players play for their colleges, their universities in European language, and they then get drafted by professional teams at the end of their college career, based on their performance, based on how well they've done, based on their popularity, and all these other kind of considerations. And that's exactly what this card game is going to be. It's going to be the amateur league, the drafting environment for the professional league, and the MMO that comes later. So every asset that you actually have in this card game isn't just, an ability to play a game and have a bit of fun. It's also kind of like a small share in the potential future career of maybe the next big athlete, at least digitally speaking. I often think of it in the same way as, like, imagine if you'd been able to kind of pick up a stock or a share in the career of Michael Jordan when he was just being discovered by the Chicago Bulls, and actually being able to ride that massive wave of popularity and cultural influence that he then manifested afterwards.
I think that would be a really cool tale to kind of start from the beginning as it kind of goes through. I like that idea and the way it kind of builds on as you kind of build out into the other ones. With I'll circle back to the card game probably, but in terms of the next stages, are there going to be other ones kind of in between that and the MMO, or how many are you envisioning? Yeah, you know the word I'm trying to say.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, so there's going to be another game that actually kind of comes out concurrently with the CGG. Now I'm losing my ability to speak as well. With the CCG, we're also going to be releasing a sandbox native game. We've had the really beautiful opportunity to work with a studio that actually develops sandbox worlds at a very high level, I have to say as well. I've been very excited by all the updates I receive on a daily basis. And in that respect, we're kind of building an interoperability layer between the sandbox, which, some have argued hasn't traditionally attracted many users. But what we're aiming to do here is build this bridge between the sandbox universe and the Epoch League, so that there's a good flow between the two. And again, we're kind of making this very story oriented and making sure that it's something that actually adds value and utility to the entire Epoch League. So this sandbox, I don't know if you were lucky enough to play Final Fantasy X back in the heyday, but it had a side game called Blitzball, which was, at least for me, that was my favorite part of the game. Among many other things, I loved that game anyway, but, Blitzball was my cup of tea. And it was a game where you go around this big, fantastical world and you recruit players to play for sort of your underwater football team, is, I guess, essentially what it was. And you get to play in tournaments, you get to play in games. It was a very, very convoluted and very broad side game, and it actually ended up being one of my favorite parts of the overall experience. But that's exactly what we're doing with this sandbox game here, is we're giving people the opportunity to go and scout players in this big open world, in this sandbox land that is a part of our Epoch universe. And so they get to, introduce themselves to all these NPCs who inhabit this world, maybe like the grumpy bartender who used to have dreams of being a football player once, but had to put those dreams aside because he was raising his kids, or, the young hotshot who thinks he's like the next big thing but just hasn't been given the chance yet. It really is sort of the scouting experience in the Epoch League. So, we're trying to build a multifaceted league here where you get to not only be like the managers and the trainers and the coaches, but you're also scouting, you're also developing tactics, and you're also developing your own roster of assets within the entire infrastructure and the entire ecosystem.
And just kind of with the mention of assets, how does all of it tie into kind of the Web3 integration?
Yeah, absolutely. So, obviously, we've all been here through this bear market at this point, and we've seen the rise and, like, some slight fall of the popularity in NFTs, particularly with more traditional crowds. I still inhabit very big gaming circles in my own life, and a lot of them are still, the word NFT is anathema to them. You might as well have just killed their grandma. And so we're definitely, we are embracing the Web3 ethos of decentralization, and making sure that these assets really do represent infrastructure in the league and IP. And they are going to be NFTs. We're just, kind of communicating them in a way that makes them much more of an integral game piece, as opposed to just something that's a collectible. So yeah, all of the cards that you play with in Bash, all of the things that you collect out of Sandbox are represented as NFTs. As a shareholder in any one of these athletes and later on teams as well, you will be a part of a large community, a DAO essentially, that organizes let's say the athletes, but this does apply to the teams as well, that organizes their life, organizes their training, organizes their contracts, negotiates on their behalf. And, even getting to the extent that we've seen with projects like Play Swoops and their basketball game, where people are, starting to actually take on ownership of these things in a meaningful, in a fan way. They're developing artwork for these players. They're developing Twitter channels for these players. And, it's wonderful to see, because we know deep down, like, they're not real athletes. They're digital athletes. But that line between digital and real life has actually become so blurry these days. And I think younger people are really embracing that idea. That yeah, we're going to be trying to really fully give people that sort of ownership in this kind of ecosystem, to not only own the league and own the infrastructure of the league, but to really embrace that ownership as well, and start to create their own fandom and their own marketing and their own ideas and stories around this kind of stuff too. Essentially, we're trying to decentralize franchise sports.
And that sounds like a big dream. I think it's not going to be an easy task, but I do like the idea. And with that kind of idea of decentralizing it, and you mentioned the idea that you pick a player up from scouting, you follow them all the way through, kind of as they might develop in the different kind of ecosystems that you've got. Is there going to be just one of one character, or is there going to be a sense of kind of proof of rarity within the cards? How's that going to be handled?
Yeah, that's a really, really cool question, actually. And yeah, you're not wrong. We definitely have a very ambitious long-term vision for this. Obviously, a few of these games are our way of kind of making sure that we can build a story that gets us to that end goal. And we have high hopes of getting there, but obviously, it is a lofty ambition, decentralizing franchise sports. I mean, it's a very Web3 dream, but we plan on fulfilling it. As for your question with these cards, so each athlete will be represented by and team. I should emphasize this. Teams will later be released as shares as well, as digital assets. Each player will be represented by a numerous amount of cards. I think we have a cap on each one of about 10,000. We're not dead set on every single player having to have a community of 10,000 people behind them. These DAOs and tools that we're building in order to manage these athletes and teams will allow communities of any size to kind of orient themselves and build out that ecosystem for themselves. But in terms of how they're distinguished, yes, each card does also have a rarity mechanism. We're being careful to make this rarity mechanism something that is earned through engagement and hard work, and actually, genuinely playing the game and loving the game. We've built a economic sort of loop within the game that really that prioritizes community over individuals. So there's every opportunity for sure to own rare cards, and that does confer greater autonomy within DAOs, for example, to kind of influence decisions a bit more, or to be elected to certain positions within the DAO. But it also is kind of inbuilt that you can't necessarily just completely buy your way to the top or rig the system in your favor by having a lot of money. So it's a careful balance. We're definitely really trying to make sure that these rarities are an integral part of the gameplay, as opposed to just something that makes them collectible. But of course, everyone loves something that's a bit rarer, and everyone loves something that's a bit shinier. as is evidenced by the fact that Charizard shinies still go for a huge amount of money these days. So, it is what it is.
Yeah, people always love shiny stuff. I definitely think that even if you said, "Oh, rarity doesn't matter. Don't worry about rarity," people are like, yes, it will though. I'm going to make it matter. So I think that definitely comes into it. Just circling back around to the idea of it being American football, and you mentioned that it is very popular in North America. Do you see a lot of your marketing and kind of user acquisition that you're going to be going on targeting that area, or are you just going to be here it is world, who's coming in kind of situation?
Oh, that's a very good question. So, aside from being Mr. Creative in this company, I do wear a couple of hats, and one of them is the social media guy as well. We're still a small team, and we're building. With the priority being releasing these games and making them actually good. So, I do cover a few bases, and in this respect, marketing campaign, we are obviously we do have to kind of make sure that we're attractive to a North American audience, because that is where the majority of those people familiar with the concept will be. And that doesn't just apply to American football, it does apply to crypto and blockchain technology as well. There was a great graph shown yesterday on one of my personal favorite crypto YouTube channels, which shall remain unnamed, for just because I don't want to show bias. But it did show that I think still 80% of the users using, for example, the Lightning Network on Bitcoin are based in North America. So even if we was just trying to attract Web3 users, it makes sense to be going into that market as well. But I do also want to add that we do, because we're digitally native and because we're creating fictional players, we have had the opportunity, the name Epoch2140, it's set in the year 2140, and as such we have made an effort to make these teams represented in the league very global, to make the players represented in the teams very global and very diverse. And of course, even to the extent that the teams are actually mixed gender, we're not sticking to those kind of traditions necessarily, not through lack of awareness over the kind of crowds, but actually because the data does show that even the female audience for NFL these days is growing absolutely at record-breaking speed. We're also seeing American football start to populate European stadiums as well, and the NFL are very actively engaging with different continents at this point to kind of ship their product a bit more worldwide, as the NBA have shown can be done with quite a lot of success. So overall, I think it's a positive future in terms of more people worldwide understanding and knowing a bit about American football. But yes, we do have to understand that our key audience is still those American people. I'm just personally excited for the idea that because we do have such a diverse cast of characters and such a diverse spectrum of teams from all around the world, that we will actually hopefully be a part of that ability for people who aren't necessarily familiar with the sport, or its fandoms, to kind of be a bit more onboarded into it in less of an intimidating way.
I like that. I like the kind of future element of it. It avoids difficulties you might have with being too close to real players or anything like that. And it gives you a bit more freedom to do it. And who knows, maybe there'll be aliens by that point. Someone with 4 arms would definitely do better at American football if I was scouting.
On that note, we have been talking a little bit to Martian Premier League, if you know them, and so who knows, maybe something can come of that collaboration one day. Yeah, that'd be exciting to see for sure.
And then you did mention kind of how people could self-organize into mini DAOs or effective DAOs. As you kind of build out into the MMO side of things, when people are doing, I'm still kind of comparing it to fantasy sports essentially. People do like running their own leagues. Is it going to be one massive MMO league, or will people be able to organize into their own competitive leagues?
So the actual Epoch League itself will remain a one large ecosystem that people participate in the same way that I said earlier on, like we're trying to kind of decentralize the franchise sport. We sort of imagine it a little bit like, say, for example, the Premier League in the UK right now tends to be an organization that's run exclusively by very wealthy people and usually somewhat old and white men. Not that that's any criticism at all. It is just a very small and very lacking in diversity group of people that run the entire system. And so we're really trying to kind of flip that narrative on its head and give people ownership over an entire league. And that does mean that, the actual Epoch League itself will remain kind of an intact overall system that everyone contributes towards. But also we are going to have a fantasy football element. We are going to be building out the tools for people to kind of organize their own tournaments and competitions within this ecosystem too. So definitely there's going to be a huge amount of scope for people to have independent rivalries outside of the main Epoch League too. And I think for me personally, that's going to be really, really exciting because, as a storyteller, again, when we're building these fictional characters, and when we're giving people the opportunity to contribute to the stories of these fictional characters, I would love to start seeing, rivalries happening or and that kind of thing. Say, for example, you're an owner of the person I have in my profile picture at the moment, and you've got a rivalry of one of the quarterbacks for another team. So you organize a tournament around that beef and duke it out with these other players. And I think having that kind of ability to kind of play out your own rivalries and your own dreams as well is going to be integral to this. So it'll be multifaceted in that respect for sure.
And just looking a bit closer to the current future, when will we be able to play the first card game aspect of it?
Yeah, absolutely. This is the thing that I'm most excited about. So the card game itself is actually somewhat functional already. Our developers have done a great job of actually building and developing all of the mechanics that feed into it. At this point, we're on UI development, so making it look good, making it very intuitive to use, making it very obvious how to use it, because obviously, again, American football, maybe not everyone understands exactly how American football works, so we obviously need to make this approachable and easy for people. And we're, of course, balancing bug testing and all those other fun things as well. So the roadmap for the card game in particular, I don't think is particularly long. We're aiming for a Q4 launch, so somewhere between October or December, depending on how this playtesting goes. That initial launch will, of course, be a beta playtest environment, for which we'll be releasing something called the Epoch Pack. And that Epoch Pack is sort of what like you'd see on Steam or the Epic Store when you see an indie game developer kind of releasing a beta version in order to attract playtesters, to attract people who kind of want to get some early benefits for contributing to kind of a not 100% polished game yet. And we're treating the Epoch Pack very much as that sort of access pass, but with the added benefit of the ability to start actually collecting and building your collection of athletes and other in-game items as well. So the card game will be beta playtesting environment mode Q4 this year. I would love to see it sort of around September, October time, but of course, with anything tech-based, you never know where the roadblocks will come, so we're keeping it fairly loose. The Epoch Pack will, of course, come out a bit earlier. We're aiming for a September release for that. And there'll be 2,200 of those available. So there is room for 2,200 people to come and play, to become play testers for this game. That also gives you access to the sandbox game as well, I should add. And we're hoping that it's a compelling package. I certainly believe so. I think we've filled that Epoch Pack, like a literal pack, quite full, with lots of goodies, lots of cards, lots of collectibles. But I mean, also, we do like to say that actually this is probably the first American football collectible card trading game that we've personally seen, at least in the digital environment, that currently exists. Obviously, NFL Rivals is kind of similar-ish concept, but they've kind of moved a bit further away from those traditional CCG mechanics and gone for something a bit more dynamic. So we're definitely positioning ourselves as more of a traditional card game in that respect, but with that real Madden twist that should be quite compelling.
Oh, it sounds really exciting. And for people who are interested in what you've just been mentioning, where's the best place to keep up to date with how the project's developing and how they can get involved?
So definitely getting involved is 100% a thing we would love to have people doing. We've just released our Epoch dashboard, which if you visit our website, epoch2140.com, there's a button on the top right there which will take you into that. It's a web-free or non-web-free logging, depending on your preference. So you can obviously log in with your Discord or your Google account or your MetaMask, whatever you personally prefer. And that will take you to our dashboard, which is full of quests, the ability to start leveling up your profile. I would kind of think of it almost as like your Riot account if you've played League of Legends or similar kinds of games. It's your home from home if you're interested in Epoch League. Those quests are all linked up to our Zeely account. So as you're engaging in some of these quests, you're also building up XP to slowly but surely earn Epoch pack slots as well as discounts on them, and potentially even free Epoch packs too if you really are someone who likes to grind on these kind of things. And then from there, we're going to be filling this dashboard with an absolute ton of experiences. We've got a 3D WebGL immersive storytelling experience coming into there very soon that will kind of tell you the story of the Epoch League, as well as giving you an environment to kind of walk around in and explore the game assets and the story behind it. And of course, the Epoch pack will be unpacked in there as well in kind of a gamified way. For anyone who's interested in following on our socials as well, if you go to our Twitter page, you'll see the link tree at the top there. Our Discord is always open to anyone. We're very, very friendly in there. We've got a few really good community mods that love to keep the chats going. We have a diverse crowd. It's not just American football focused. We've got gamers, we've got Web3 people, we've got sports people, and we've got everything in between, even cheese lovers. Who knew? And so, yeah, I would just encourage everyone to check out that link tree and visit our website to jump into that dashboard as well. The more the merrier. We're really, really keen to have people involved, and even more keen to have people who really want to actually build out these stories for themselves, who, you know, do believe in this idea that they can have autonomy of thought in a much larger ecosystem as opposed to just being a consumer.
No, that sounds really cool. I have pinned to the top for anyone interested a few of the bits from the profile, but if there are any other bits that you want to pin from your timeline, feel free to pin them to the top. But thanks for introducing your project. It's really good to hear from you.
No worries at all. Yeah, we'll pin a few bits to the top, and yeah, just want to say thank you for giving us this platform to talk to you, to talk to your lovely crowd. Yeah, really excited to hear from Atomix. So I'll hand over now and pin some pretty pictures to the top while I'm doing it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Just for those who join us since the start, it is episode 50 of What's Your Game. We just heard from Epoch, so you can go and check out their socials to find out more, or you can listen to the recording because the whole space has been recorded. The whole idea of the space is to introduce new games. And with that, we're going to go over to our second game of the night, Atomix8. So, who are you and what's your game?
Hello, hello. Lovely to be here. It was great to hear from Epoch, and it was great to get the invitation to kind of showcase what we did so far with Atomix8. And before I'll dive deeper to what we do, I kind of want to discuss first why we are doing what we are doing, because we are a bit on the different side of things. Like, we're fully on chain, and we're trying to kind of leverage blockchain technology in order to create something that is different. And Atomix8 for us is a blockchain powered casual adventure that kind of trying to leverage the power of community to build really great stuff. Like, that's what we're really trying to do here, because we think that at the current space and at the current, like, overall, let's say the climate of not necessarily only gaming, but the entire world, we have an opportunity to really leverage the power of tons of people who are striving for the same goal. And what we're seeing right now with gaming, which gaming is soaring. Like the gaming is pretty much taken over social media in terms of being social online. And on the other hand, we're seeing the more day-to-day, like friendly relationships kind of taking a nosedive. And people are trying to find new communities that kind of will replace the more traditional ones. And for that, we wanted to create something that will strive for a big goal that will benefit the entire community as fairly as possible. And that's kind of how Atomix8 was born. And I'll circle back even pretty much 1.5 years ago that we started working on My Mini Miners, which was the first project the team kind of rolled out. We scraped it, but it was the fundamental step to create Atomix8. What we took from that and what we took from pretty much 18 months of operating in Web3 gaming is that we have a very strong community of people here that are playing the infinite game. For people who don't really understand what I mean by that, people are trying to really better the gaming space, and by extension of it, they're trying to better, in our view, the relationships between people, between humans, because that's pretty much the main way that people are interacting and socializing at the moment. So we wanted to kind of build a platform that could accelerate it and could benefit everyone by building something that is truly great. And the Atomix8 is kind of the first step for it. That's why it's very much on chain. It's very much crypto native, because that's kind of the audience that we are looking for. We are looking for people to help us build. And yeah, that's us pretty much in a nutshell.
No, I think some big stuff happening in there, and I definitely agree with people trying to find more connections through the through gaming that they're getting involved with. I'm just going through trying to pin up a few bits as we go through, but I've just seen the platypuses are the wizards of play Atomix8. He looks like a fun guy. How do these different creatures? I'll pin that to the top actually because I like that one. How do they play into kind of what you're building and what it is you're trying to achieve?
So can you repeat? I'm sorry, I didn't fully understand.
Yeah, so I've just pinned to the top one of the platypus. It looks like a platypus with bombs and shotgun shells.
Yeah.
What am I doing with this platypus?
Okay, so let me get to the hang of it. So in Atomix8 we have pretty much 3 assets. All of them are on chain. The platypus is one of our heroes. Like, it's more of a family, but that will unfold soon enough. Right now, the objective is to scout for Atomix cards. Once you scout for Atomix cards, you can upgrade them or mint them into actual Atomix heroes, and you can utilize those heroes in order to mint Omix, which is the in-game token. Now, the Omix token only serves you to scout and to get more heroes, and we're building pretty much the entire narrative and the entire, let's say, ecosystem around those heroes. They are divided into 4 categories. I won't really go deeper into that, but you can kind of understand where it's going by actually viewing them and seeing the different art. They kind of speak for themselves, so it's a bit of an Easter egg. But right now, each of them have minting power. So we have 4 different rarities for each. So common, rare, epic, and legendary, and 10 different levels for each. So you can upgrade them from 1 to level 10, and then you can get access to different quests and different experiences, and obviously get different payouts and rates based on that.
And when you mention payouts and rates, is this tying into the quests that I can see on your profile, or is that a separate thing that you're running?
Exactly. So when you go to quests, you pretty much line up your roster of Atomix heroes. It's up to 8, that's why it's Atomix8. And based on the power that they have, you will receive the payout of Omix tokens that you kind of exchange formatting. So there is a few things that go into that, because the quests also have bonus percentage that can increase or decrease the power of that quest that is based on a penalty score. Now, this penalty score is based on how popular was the quest. So how many people actually explored it the previous week. And that's kind of the strategic game around it, when to quest in which one of them and with what roster, because whenever you send your heroes to a quest, you put them on cooldown for a while, depending on the quest that you put them in. And it's kind of our way to have a very strategic route in minting the assets of the actual game.
And if I'm understanding right, so with the quests, I've got my selection of heroes, and then I pick quests and they just go off, or do I have more active involvement in the quests as I'm taking part?
You just go off, exactly. So once you scouted them, once you press the scout, you will get your Omix tokens pretty much right away, and then your heroes will go on cooldown for the duration that the quest had at the time.
And so I'm assuming that I would do better to have more heroes, because then I can go on more quests while the others are on cooldown?
That's the strategy. That's the choice that you have to make, because let's say that you spread out and you took, like, let's say 2 sets of 8. So you went for 16 heroes instead of upgrading them for higher levels, and you're trying to to explore quest number 1 as much as you can, just to circle them back in and out. Maybe it will work, but it depends also on what other users will do, because it will affect your choices pretty much.
And yeah, just touching on how the other users affect what I'm up to. So essentially, say, just to paint an example, if 10 people went to the same adventure, it would now be split across 10 people. Whereas if only 3 people went, I'm going to get more because it's only split across the 3 of us.
Kind of, but I'll give the example around it. So we have, okay, let's say the production rate, let's say, is set right now at 100% because we just started the game. So let's say a week has passed and the production rate has now decreased to 99% because it slowly decreases each week. So let's say all the users have explored quest number 1 and no one really explored any other quest, then the entire 1% will be taken off quest number 1. So quest number 1 will now give you 99% of the production rate, while all the other quests will give you 100% of the rate. Now, as we progress, this mechanic becomes more and more influential, and it's kind of by design, just so we won't have like tons of whales jumping in and pretty much taking over stuff right away. So let's say it's even week number 4 or 5. So the quest, the current production rate is being decreased to 95%. So we have pretty much 5% that will be spread out between different quests depending on the people who explore them. So let's say 75% of the people who explored quest number 1, 25% explored quest number 2, and the rest was untouched. Nobody went to explore any of the other quests. So in that case, you will get pretty much -5% for quest number 1, which is the highest the highest penalty score, because most people explored quest number 1, and quest number 2, that was only 25%, will get a -1.25%. So it will be 98.75% production rate, while the rest will be 100%. I know it's a bit complicated. That's kind of the nature of the economy that we've built, but it was necessary, trust me. So we have more detailed, let's say, examples on our white paper that kind of lay it out in more of a bullet point fashion that you can probably follow better if it was not that understandable.
Yeah, that makes sense. I get the rough idea of kind of when I'm picking my quests, I need to be a bit more strategic about it. In the examples you've mentioned, kind of it seeming quite competitive with other people. Is there any mechanics or any reasons why you see people might team up in working together at all?
Yeah, for sure. And we kind of encourage it. We want people to do that. We have a couple of things that are laid out for, let's say, the next 3 months that we will help amplify that exact thing. Let's say that the point here is to kind of try to predict your opponent, and if you team up with someone else, you can do it better because you can plan it out. The both of you, like, let's use those whatever heroes in those whatever quests, and then sell or buy or do whatever you like. So teaming up is very much an advantage, and it's very much by design.
No, I like that. And then you said that it's Atomix8 because you kind of have your 8 heroes. Would my team be identical to everyone's, or is there more than 8 and I just have to pick which ones I fill into the 8?
Yeah, you can have a roster of whatever you like how many heroes you would like to main. That's up to you. But you can get up to 8 in each quest. So you can, let's say you have like 24 heroes, you can pretty much set them to 3 teams and explore 3 quests at once, if that's kind of your tactics. But you can go up to 8. You must have at least 1 and no more than 8 in each quest.
Okay, I like that. And will you be releasing more heroes kind of as time goes on to kind of keep it going through?
We probably will expand the heroes, not necessarily introduce more heroes, but just expand the actual nature of them, because right now it's just the hero NFT and that's it, and we have a lot of plans on expanding that in the future with weapons and other stuff.
Sorry, I'm just trying to pin a few more bits up as from your profile as we're going through, and
No problem.
And kind of what stage are you at now? What if I wanted to get in today, what would I be doing, or is it kind of near future that we're looking at?
So we deployed on testnet. It was important for us to have something that is kind of set for people to feel and kind of play before we go further than what we already did. Because although the team is very strong and we have a lot of very smart people in it, we do know that the market is the one that will determine our success. So we wanted to have as much community involvement as we could. So pretty much a month ago, we stealth launched the Discord. We have a very good relationship with Games7 and Fogdao and those type of communities. So we asked them for their help to join and kind of give their feedback before everyone else. And they did, and it very much helped us to kind of steer the project in the direction that we think it should go. And I'm actually seeing that Sir Sapient is here as well. So he's one of the many people, and Dante here as well. So those are two of many people that we asked feedback from, just to see how they feel about the current state of things and the current flow, and is it understandable? Is it too complicated? Like, what do you think? So we did that for like 3-4 weeks, and now we slowly trickle in people from Twitter, just people that follow us. We pretty much share one invite link a day, so we're getting 7 people in a week, because we don't really want to bombard our Discord. We want people to, like, the core community is very much in tune with the current state of Web3 gaming. And because we are on chain and we don't necessarily look for like mass adoption right away, we're trying to build something that is more infrastructure like as the first product and kind of build on top of it. It was very important for us that the people that we are getting feedback from will understand it and will have some experience with on-chain games. So that's what we went with, and yeah, it's going great thus far.
And in terms of the future, what's coming up near in the near future, and then kind of this quarter sort of thing?
So in terms of this quarter, the main focus is to complete a couple of screens that we need to improve on. The quest screen at the moment is a bit rough, I would say. It's too busy in a way, and we want people to feel the progression a bit more. That was something that really came up during the alpha phase that we are still currently on, but that's something that came up, so that's kind of our main focus there. The second one is the hero tab, because I mentioned it about the quest, but heroes kind of work in the same way. You have penalty scores that are attached to both quests and heroes. So let's say you explore the quest with a certain hero. He got a penalty score. It affected everyone else. So we wanted to have like more of a, let's say, a leaderboard or a statistics page that kind of shows you, okay, this is the ranking at the moment, and this is the penalty score that each hero have and each quest have, and this is what will kind of shift it. So you can kind of predict the future in a way and play around to kind of play the long game. So that's the two things that we are working on in order to finalize the desktop version, and then we will shift our attention to the mobile version.
No, it all sounds very exciting. I have, I think I pinned one more. I found another picture that I quite liked. So I'll just put that one up there. And then, is kind of getting that Discord link the best way to stay up to date with the community, or what's the best thing for people to do who've liked hearing what you've been talking about today?
I would say Twitter is like the best way to kind of keep tabs of what we are doing. Discord right now, we are trying to keep it fairly small, because it is important for us not only to have people that are engaged, but to have people that are really like forming connections, because there are two, let's say, two routes for Atomix8 as we see it. There is Atomix8 as the game, like the game mechanics, like everything that we just kind of discussed. But there is also the bigger version of building a community of builders that are striving for the same goal. And for that to happen, you can't really, in my opinion, and for my experience of building communities, you can't really bombard it with 100 or 200 or 300 people that don't know each other and expect connections and relationships to form. It's kind of, it's a slow and steady thing that we want to take the time to actually build. So we're very slow in getting people in the Discord for that reason. But on Twitter, we are picking up and we will be active now. We just moved out of stealth like pretty much 2 weeks ago, I would say 3 weeks ago. So that's the best place to kind of keep tabs, and we're editing and adding to the white paper as we go. So yeah, that's what I would recommend.
No, that sounds good. Now, like I say, I've pinned some bits to the top for anyone who wanted to see more on Atomix8. Is there any bits of the mechanics that I've missed as we've been going through? Any last words you want to finish off with?
I think that's pretty much it. We do utilize AI for more of an interactive storytelling type thing, but it's more of let's say Q1 2024 thing. So I would say if you are interested by what we just discussed, I will urge you to go to the white paper and kind of read through it. Not necessarily the entire thing. I think the main two sections are the A and B one, the automated mint balancer, which is the quest part that I discussed, and the community-driven gameplay, which is called CDG, and that's the hero mechanics. Both of them are connected to the penalty score, which you can read kind of the introduction for it that comes just before the community-driven gameplay section, and it will give you more of an idea of what we are trying to do in terms of the game mechanics and a bit of why we are trying to do it.
No, thanks for coming up and sharing your project. I've pinned some bits at the top, and you guys will get added to the What's Your Game Twitter list as well. So I'll be able to keep an eye out and share updates as we go along.
Amazing. Appreciate it.
No, that's fine. And thanks again to both of you for coming up. I know you're really busy, so it means a lot that you've come up and spent the hour with us today talking about your projects. To everyone in the audience as well, you've got millions of pulls on your time and attention. So the fact that you've come to listen to us either live or listen to the recording really means a lot. And I hope you've enjoyed learning about these two new projects. We will be back maybe next week. I'm not sure if I'm taking the week off next week, but we will be back soon, and we're getting very close to hitting those 52 episodes. We have already crossed the year finish line that this space has now been running. I think it was 3 days ago, but I need to go back and check. I was meant to tweet about it, and then the days just kept rolling on. So it has been going for over a year at this point, and we've got to meet a lot of really exciting projects. But until next time, I'll catch everyone in a bit, and remember to play games that you enjoy. I'll see you all later.